It was the last land grab by the United States in the lower 48. This desert contained some of the most desolate, unknown, and godforsaken country on the continent. At the time, most people didn't know what all the fuss was about. Then slowly, the land's riches became abundant.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation.
Wasn't a child. The last piece of territory that the United States acquired in the contiguous 48 states was a chunk called the Gadsden Purchase. Almost nobody knew what was contained inside it, and Mexico let it go for a song. The purchase was not made because of the beauty of the land. West of the Rio Grande, it's barren, ugly, and empty. But Southern politicians weren't concerned with how pretty it was. The Gadsden Purchase is known in Mexico as El Tratado de la Mesilla, or the Mesilla Treaty. This is a town of Mesilla. It was a border town before the purchase in 1853. Now, the Mexican border is about 30-40 miles to the south. At Mesilla, New Mexico, I meet up with my Mexican-born American friend, historian, naturalist, and musician extraordinaire, Jesus Garcia. He knows the border well from a Mexican viewpoint. This is the perfect place to see where geography really changes.
Absolutely.
Because the Rio Grande comes down, and here's where it makes the bend and becomes not the Rio Grande.
It's El Rio Bravo. Anywhere in Mexico, on the Mexico side, is always known as El Rio Bravo.
Yeah. Well, to the west, looking out here, that's the Gadsden Purchase. That's that strip of land that changed the history of the U.S.
All the way to Yuma.
So here's where El Paso is. On the other side, that enormous expanse, that's Ciudad Juarez.
Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, and it's a big, big city, and it's blended in with El Paso except the river in the middle. But they're both pretty much form this massive urban area here.
1589, 1590, El Paso is founded. And they call it El Paso del Norte, the Paso North, because this is the first place they ran into water coming north.
Water was probably available there. When you look at the rest of the desert here, whole different picture here.
This is the very railroad that was planned by those who were involved in the Gadsden Purchase. In those days, the big controversy was whether any railroad would be controlled by Southern slavery or Northern anti-slavery interests. The question between the U.S. and Mexico was how much money would the U.S. pay and how big a parcel would Mexico get? The advance exploration team of Americans had no idea what they would find, and they may even have entertained illusions of beauty and grandeur. Coming from El Paso, they strike out in what will be the Gadsden Purchase, and it's this creosote, lava here, a few scrawny grasses, nothing more. Who would want it?
Probably nobody. It's a piece of land with all this very dry desert, no water. And at that time, probably people wanted water for cattle, maybe agriculture,
or for crops.
And even mining required water.
Well, yeah, you look here, a prospector isn't going to find much here.
Probably not.
So the Easterners are going to say, it's not worth anything, we shouldn't even buy it. But now, what are the Mexicans going to say?
Well, here's the thing. Mexico already claimed all this land, not only here, but all the way up north, more than 100 miles north of here. And then, even though there was not much happening, a few settlers living already here, a humongous piece of land, somewhat disconnected from central Mexico.
But they're going to play like it's really valuable.
Exactly, but it was theirs. Yeah, besides this massive amount of land, they probably found some pockets like the Santa Cruz River and some of the mountains near Arizona and northern Arizona.
So they knew there was some good stuff.
There was some good stuff, but compared to central and southern Mexico, this was
That's
peanuts,
lush, cornfields everywhere. You and I live in the Sonoran Desert, and this is Chihuahuan Desert.
We have a lot more diversity of vegetation.
Yeah.
Very, very different. No cactus, no big, huge cactus, no saguaros.
You'll see little cacti and, of course, plenty of creosote, but it's cold here in the wintertime.
Much colder. We can feel it right now.
Yeah, right now. And you'll have days here when the temperature doesn't get above freezing. And it doesn't rain much.
It's not as lush as the Sonoran Desert.
Yeah.
Definitely not the diversity of plants that we
And it
have.
goes on for hundreds and hundreds of miles.
En nuestro México, febrero 23, dejó Carranza pasar americanos, 10,000 soldados, 300 aeroplanos, buscando a Villa por todo el país.
The Gadsden Purchase graded a few towns along the new U.S.-Mexican border. Most of them were quiet, dusty settlements for the first half-century. Columbus, New Mexico has a distinction of being famous for a Mexican, Pancho Villa.
Pancho Villa, very, very important. Here is the Mexican Revolution taking place around 1916. Pancho Villa attacks the United States and invades the United States right here in Columbus, New Mexico.
Destroys the town.
Destroys the town.
Kills a bunch of Americans. Americans couldn't make any response because there were soldiers here, all their arms were locked in a garrison. So when Pancho Villa is gone, everybody is furious. They recruit General Pershing to follow him into Mexico.
And here's when another part of the history of Mexico is very important. We learn when the United States invades Mexico. First time the United States using airplanes in war, and is to look for Pancho Villa down into Mexico. And I learned that in a corrido. The song tells you the story of what happened, the actual historical points on a corrido, and we learned it in school.
Comenzaron a mandar expediciones, los aeroplanos empezaron a volar por distintas y varias direcciones, buscando a Villa, queriéndolo matar. Los soldados que vinieron desde Texas a Pancho Villa no podían encontrar, fatigados de 20 horas de camino, los pobrecitos se querían regresar.
This border, which is established by the Gadsden Purchase, this is a straight shot 100 miles to the Rio Grande.
It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
pretty a straight shot, and this flat land goes
Forever.
a long way. And nowadays, even though with this tall wall right here, very strong metal fence here, the activity continues on a regular basis. Legal activities go on all the time. People from both sides of the border exchanging business and
illegal.
and as well as legal activity going on all the time, despite of this big fence.
Los de a caballo no podían ni sentados y los de a pie no podían caminar. Entonces Villa les pasa en su aeroplano y desde arriba les grita goodbye.
From Columbus, it's a long, empty 60 miles to the next settlement, if you can call it that. It appears that today there are more dead people than living in Hachita. The first part of life we see here, apart from the Border Patrol, is a cemetery. Hachita was clearly not an affluent town, and this is not an affluent cemetery.
No, you can see some very, just very simple graves here.
Yeah, like a little doll.
Not even a cross, probably. It used to be a cross at
just
one
in
point.
a mound of dirt.
But here we have a musician, very likely.
Yeah, Tommy, so he's just got a mound too, and the gophers are doing quite a job there.
A little bit of
barbed wire.
Barbed wire,
Yeah.
a little bit of the ranching
That motif. Look, here's more
tradition.
barbed wire.
More barbed wire. There's a little girl named Inez Rebecca that lived only 1 month. From January 2nd to February 2nd, 1918. Very nice ornaments in a way, simple but very nice metal ornaments in here.
Now this enclosure seems to have 3 different eras. So we got World War I and the Spanish-American War, right? Do you see a third one?
Yes, and the third one, I think that is Civil War.
Yeah, there it is. So we've got 3 different wars.
And look at the ornaments in here. They look much older.
This is an old-time fence, so we've got real war history here, right inside this tiny little enclosure. You know, it's an isolated place, right in the middle of the Chihuahuan Desert. Hachita isn't much of a place, but Antelope Wells, called El Berrendo in Mexico, 45 minutes to the south, is even less significant. It is the least used Mexican border crossing. 50 years ago, the location of the exact border on the ground was anybody's guess. Now, there's no question where the border is. It's fortified as though it's a war zone. Traffic hasn't increased much though, just 3 crossings a day from the south. So when the Americans did the boundary survey for the Gadsden Purchase, they originally only made 50-some boundary markers for some 600 miles of boundary. That's not enough.
These mojones, basically, these markers are very unique. It's just one little marker.
Yeah, and it wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough, but they didn't need to have more to show where the border was. Because
Well, they did though, because they came back and they did over 200. They added a bunch, and this is number 60.
Exactly, and I think those mojones or those markers were just a way to look at it. If you could see from one to the other one, that was enough to tell you this is where the border.
And if you didn't live close enough to see one, well, probably didn't matter.
Didn't matter.
Until you came to voting.
Exactly.
Maybe it did matter then. 100 highway miles to the west, just inside Arizona, the landscape changes dramatically. The rugged and forested Chiricahua Mountains are a sky island oasis above the desert floor, wet enough to grow limited crops and rich enough in wild foods to have supported Chiricahua Apaches. For 200 years, the Apaches used the convoluted topography to great advantage to escape Mexican and American retaliation for their frequent raiding parties. The 1880s marked the end of these so-called United States Indian Wars. This is the monument to the capture of Geronimo, but it actually took place a good 10 miles over in the Peloncillos in Skeleton Canyon. But it's a good place.
Yeah, it's very significant because the entire area here was really Apache land, and I think it makes sense here to see it in front of the Chiricahua Mountains, especially.
Oh yeah, well, he was a Chiricahua Apache. You know, part of the Gadsden Purchase there was a provision that the United States had to indemnify Mexico for any damage that the Apaches did, and I expect the Mexicans like that.
Once the Gadsden Purchase was done, it took a long time to really, for many people living here, particularly the Apaches, to really understand where the border was or what it meant. So for the Apaches, this land was still their vast land.
Exactly.
And going into Mexico back and forth probably didn't mean much to them because...
Well, no, and they couldn't understand why the U.S. cared about them attacking Mexico. The U.S. then had to clamp down on the Apaches because they didn't want to keep paying in damages, and there were a lot. And then a really sad part of history comes when, you know, the Apaches then were put on reservations, and Geronimo was sort of a heroic protest against that treatment.
But again, it's 1886. This is the last really Native Americans uprisings that the United States had to deal with. I mean, in a form of war. Yeah. And there is Geronimo doing that right here in this area. The first border town inside Arizona is Douglas, with its famous hotel named after the senator who never ventured here, even though the Purchase was named after him.
So you stayed in the Gadsden Hotel, right?
One time.
Do you know about Gadsden?
Not really.
You wouldn't be expected to, because they don't tell you about that in Mexico.
No,
It's a
certainly
different
not.
name.
The only thing I've known is that he was expelled from Mexico.
Right. He was a southern plantation slave-owning guy. So Gadsden gets this idea of getting a strip where they could build a railroad to bring slave sympathizers out west and outnumber the anti-slave sentiment, make new Confederate states or slave states. The only problem was the Northerners suspected him of something. They made a completely different parcel, and what the U.S. wound up with was nothing like what Gadsden had in mind, but still has his name.
Yeah, the interesting thing in Mexico, this is not known very much, especially in the northern part of Mexico. And other than the Gadsden Hotel here in Douglas, all I've heard is that he became a diplomat after the purchase.
Yeah.
But then he was expelled from Mexico.
He was acting like a big gringo.
Probably.
You're out of here, they said. Long before Douglas became a town, a nearby Mexican ranch was established along the only reliable springs for many miles. The northern part of the ranch straddled the U.S.-Mexican border after the Gadsden Purchase redefined the border. It became the Slaughter Ranch. Oh, the Slaughter Ranch still looks like an old ranch, even though it's a national wildlife refuge. Oh, this is such a great place.
It's very unique. It's right up against the border.
Really? Well, that's got to be the border, then right over at the edge of the pasture. I don't know of any other place where the border is marked by the end of a sheep pasture.
Right there. There's Mexico right there.
There's
On the
Mexico
other side of
right
that fence right there is Mexico.
And here we are in Arizona.
This was very different from the land that we've seen in New Mexico. So this is another section of the Gadsden Purchase that probably made a little difference for the people.
Yeah, but it was not
that time.
green here in 1853. These fabulous artesian wells were created by an earthquake in 1887.
And it's basically an oasis. And this is a very important historic site too, because actually Pancho Villa came through here at one point in the early 1900s. They just came and started helping themselves with the crops that they had, and Mr. Slaughter went out and met them and tried to confront him. And when he came back, he had his saddlebags with gold coins and stuff. So they got paid, and
they paid for their stuff. That was not the way Pancho Villa always
operated, but apparently he he worked that way here.
Then I guess Slaughter bought the thing after the Gadsden Purchase. He bought it in, I think it was 1884, and made all this lake out of a pond. He just enlarged it.
And to this day, it's an oasis that in the middle of this kind of transition zone between Sonoran Desert and Chihuahuan Desert, you have this wonderful green place and a wonderful cattle ranch.
You grew up in Mexico. You spend a lot of time in Mexico still. You tell me why the United States thought it was important in 1911 to build a fort here. 1911.
In 1911, well, first of all, in 1910, the Mexican Revolution starts. Big unrest throughout the country. And the border is right here. And
you get a good perspective here.
Good perspective. It's a great spot right here to protect the U.S. border. And here you have the U.S. Army stationed for almost the entire time of the Revolution, looking down into this valley. Mr. Slaughter already was living here, and during that time, basically the Army stationed here, and this time protecting the border for anything that could have happened, because still, 1910, that was a long time of unrest, and the United States was very worried about it.
There are a lot of banditry going on at that time too, right?
Toda la gente de Chihuahua y Ciudad Juárez, muy asustada y asombrada se quedó. Das de ver tanto gringo y carrancista, que Pancho Villa sin orejas los dejó. ¿Qué pensarían ahí los americanos? Que combatir era un baile de carquín. Con sus caras llenas de vergüenza, se regresaron todos a su país.
Some of the banditry could have had to do with the vast amounts of gold, silver, and copper coming out of the mine at Bisbee, 30 miles west. Bisbee, Arizona is located about 5 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. It was included in the Gadsden Purchase. At that time, of course, nobody knew the vast mineral riches that lay beneath the soil. Ultimately, out of the Bisbee mine alone, $25 billion worth of copper was extracted, compared with the $10 million that the United States paid to Mexico. We are going to the underground mine tour in Bisbee, Arizona, and this is old stuff. All right, I'll put one of these. Should I put it on over the parka? Sure. 47 degrees. Where I come from, that's cold. Do you feel like you're about to enter the bowels of the earth, Trey? We're going to go in the mine here. We're going to go down various levels. The lowest level we get down to is 300 feet. And I think it went down a lot more than that when it was an active mine.
This level here is the 300 level, third level. Back inside, there's 2 levels above us, 4 levels below us, 100 feet apart, making this particular mine 700 feet top to bottom. Originally, they hoisted it all the way up to the surface. When the railroad got here to town, they drove this tunnel to get the ore out right the same level as the railroad's at. Okay, now we're climbing these steps up into the stope, STOPE. That's where a lot of the ore is located. Plain old working place. They had a bunch of these scattered out through the mine.
So it became the ore was not sufficiently concentrated to make it worth their while to go on here.
Exactly, mined out.
That's what happens with mines. They run out,
Yeah.
don't they?
1975, it wasn't such high grade. Price of copper went down, everything else is still going up. That's when they closed the mines.
How much copper came out of here?
Something like 8 billion pounds of copper.
Pounds of copper, and at today's price around $3 a pound.
I saw it when it got down to 13 and 17.
That's
when they closed a lot of the mines in 1949.
This is calcite quartz crystal, and from time to time, it would be gold-bearing quartz, but I think somebody got to here first and got all the good stuff out of there. Now, Pete, somebody told me that some of the underground miners, if they found a really rich piece with maybe a little gold in it or pretty turquoise, they'd put it in their lunch pail.
Yeah, they didn't even bother to check lunches buckets when we were going off a shift, because they knew we couldn't find any silver or gold, and you find some of this copper stuff.
Yeah.
A whole lunch bucket would be about 3 cents worth of copper. They didn't bother checking them.
I feel a vibration in the track. I think we're about to be run over by a train.
Or they mined on it 2 levels above. They'd dump in this pocket. Then they'd load it in some kind of mine cart and haul it out to railroad cars. Simple, huh?
Well,
Or transfer.
Yeah. But
Okay, now we'll go back here and pass by some of the drills they use here. Drill up with that one. Horizontal with these, more or less. This is called a jackleg machine. It's like a jackhammer. It's got a leg, holds it up and pushes it. This is a pattern of holes we drilled. Blast that one first, then these here second. This one here second, and break into that hole you just blasted, kick out, down, okay, work your way right around like that. That right there is called, what does it look like? A cage.
Ah.
That's an elevator.
Okay.
We call it a cage because that's what it looks like. That's the way we got in and out of the mine. Some of them you could get 12 on down the bottom. They had 3 decks on some of them. And then they had a bucket under there, and they pull the ore out of a chute right here. It goes right into the bucket and hoists it up and dump it into the railroad car.
You know, what strikes me most is all of the immense amount of ore that came out of here. What a terrific bargain the U.S. got. $10 million.
Yeah. I've heard of a figure of $25 billion, just this one mine.
The early miners found outcroppings with gold or turquoise or silver, followed them underground, and thus the first mines were all underground. With the advent of more sophisticated machinery, it became cheaper to remove the top overburden and make an open pit mine. At the time of the Gadsden Purchase in 1853, neither Mexican nor American officials knew much about the land that was involved in the purchase, other than what they saw west of the Rio Grande in what is now New Mexico. Had they ventured farther west and seen the variety of landscapes and resources, they both would have realized that the purchase price paid was far too low. During the 18th century, this part of Mexico was a faraway, desolate land that few people considered worthy of becoming part of the United States. Though mostly desert, the area in the Gadsden Purchase did have its share of rivers, oases, and islands. Sky Islands. Next time on The Desert Speaks.
Voy a dar un pormenor de lo que a mí me ha pasado, que me han agarrado preso siendo un gallo tan jugado, que me han agarrado preso siendo un gallo tan jugado.
Funding for The Desert Speaks was provided by Desert Program Partners, representing concerned viewers making a financial commitment to the education about and preservation of deserts, and by the Stonewall Foundation.
This entire season of The Desert Speaks is now available as a box set of 10 episodes. To order this or other programs from Arizona Public Media, visit our website, azpm.org, or call 800-841-5923.